Hey guys, welcome to the Save Continue podcast where we talk about video games and video game related stuff. I'm Shanae Howard, and with me is Ryan Robinson.
Hey,
Hey there. Any gaming stuff that you want to bring up before we talk about our topic? Because I got nothing new to add. I'm going to be honest. There's any new games coming out that I haven't talked about, and I'm playing. I'm still haven't finished Hogwarts, but I've just been reading a lot of books.
Shanae, I feel like it's time we kind of just finish that game. Just close the
I
book on
know,
that
but
game.
I'm hobby hopping. I also started trying to do a sewing project too.
I had been under the impression that you sewed already. I don't know why I thought that.
No, I do. I'm just saying, I just jump around from hobby to hobby all the time,
Hmm.
and I finish nothing, and I get no better skills. But I have a lot of things I can do, and I have a closet full of crafts, and I'm pretty okay with this.
Um, as far as video games are concerned, the only thing I've played this week is Destiny and Dead Island 2. That's basically it. I don't think I've played anything else this week.
Dead
Um,
Island 2 still treating you good?
Dead Island 2 fucking rules, man. That game is so fucking cool. I love playing that game.
Do you feel like a badass when you play it?
Um, yeah, there are times when I do feel like a badass. There's a point now. I don't know if this is a spoiler, but there's a point now because at the very beginning of the game you get infected by the zombie virus, and then at some point the zombie virus begins to mutate and you get all these cool little abilities. I have the ability to spit acid now, and that's real fucking cool. The meat just melts off the bones when you do that.
That is actually pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I like it. So the game is very fun. There are 6 playable characters, and I've only played through as one so far, and I plan to play through as all of them. So, but as
You're
actually,
gonna start. You're gonna be like me, just playing the same game a billion times over.
well, yeah, and I think it's like for the same reason too, because like I doing the same reason as you did with Fire Emblem is that there are different, and like that's the thing. It makes less sense for me to do it the what I'm doing because the only thing that really changes, because the different characters have different perks or whatever, but the only thing that really changes is the little things that they say like during dialogues and stuff. But I
But
feel like
it's still a different experience, and
yeah,
if you have that want where you wanna stay in the same, like, fictional universe or play the
yeah,
same game because it's, like, it just feels really good to play,
yeah,
then, I mean, it's better than it not changing at all.
yeah. So, yeah, I like that game a lot. I'm playing currently as this dude named Jacob. He's a black feller and he wears sunglasses and he's always got a cigarette in his mouth.
Oh. Wait, so
And
there's a zombie apocalypse coming, and he has enough cigarettes on him to continuously
it's the
chain
same
smoke?
cigarette.
Oh, so it's not lit.
No, well, I mean, I don't know if it's well. Okay, so at the beginning of the game, when you load into your game, it shows the character that you're
Is this
playing
a
as.
vape that looks like a
It's
cigarette?
no, it's a legit cigarette.
But
Uh,
it's lit and it just never goes
just
down.
never goes out. So
That's that's some voodoo magic right there.
yeah. But also he looks vaguely like Lenny Kravitz, which is also fun for me.
Oh,
Um,
he is
and
a beautiful man.
I've also been playing a lot of Marvel Snap because I can't stop playing that game.
It's
So
good. I play it all the time. I have a card pinned that I'm trying to work towards.
which one?
Yeah. Jeff, the little shark
You
thing,
got?
or like
How
one of
did
the
you
new cards.
see? Jeff showed up in the shop for me, and they wouldn't let me pin him, and I didn't. I couldn't
Oh
get
yeah,
enough.
like they only let you pin two of them. So like they have like one and then like a middle one that can't be pinned and then one to the right of it. And I happened to get Jeff on a spot where I could
Yeah.
pin it. So I did. And
If
I am nowhere close, but I want that little shark boy
yeah,
so fucking bad. Or he might be a shark man. I don't know, but that card is so cute.
yeah, it is cute, and also it's a good way to fuck with anybody who plays Professor X. But
Yeah. I have because Berto tries super hard to be good at this game. He does like these levels, he like does all these like mods and stuff. I specifically just make decks to fuck with his plans.
yeah,
And it's super fun. I'm not I only have one deck that I really care about, and I've gotten 3 black and white cards so
I've
far.
gotten 0.
Yeah. So you have to do the same one over and over again. I think it takes like at least 3 tries before on the same card before you can get a black and white one.
I see. Well, we still need to play that because I have a deck now that I'm feeling pretty good about,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
I want to play against my friends with it. But
Down.
that's basically my gaming life for this week.
So,
And that's gonna be my gaming life until June when fucking Final Fantasy and Street Fighter come out.
yeah. I so after we talked about the other podcast about Persona, or I had mentioned Persona 5,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I've just been thinking about it a lot lately. I think mainly because, like, I'm also helping Berto create some D&D characters for his game
Hmm.
and helping him write some backstories because he's really good at coming up with ideas, but he's not really, like, really well read. So, like, typing them out, he struggles with. And I love editing other people's stuff to, like, hey, like, what are you trying to get across, and seeing what they come up with. So it's been
Yeah.
super fun for us. But yeah, but it's also been making me think of, like, different characters in Persona 5. And so I watched a video ranking all the Persona games, like the main ones.
Sure.
And I don't know, I have never played any of the Persona games really, so, like, I just didn't realize how pervasive some of the themes are. Like, as far as, like, freedom being one of, like, either expectations, whether it be with, like, Persona 3 with, like, death and grief, and then I think I was reading that Persona 4 is, more like self stuff,
Yeah.
but, yeah. Also, like, I didn't realize I mean, I knew it probably went back, but I didn't realize it seemed to be just, like, 3 and 4 that have, like, the social links with the different confidants.
Yeah.
And that makes sense about why people love or primarily talk about 3, 4, and 5 when they talk about, like, characters or what they love.
So I never really got so my experience with Persona 3 is like 15 years out of date because I played it back when FES came out in 2008. And I didn't really get to play through the whole thing, but that was my introduction to like a lot of some of the gameplay staples of Persona, like the social links and all that stuff. So, um, but Persona 5 was the first Persona game that I actually put a serious amount of time into. I think I have like 200 hours in that game. Um, so uh,
Yeah, and I guess and even though I've played it a couple times, and I guess I just never really thought too far deeply into the actual, like, characters, uh confidant like groupings or
yeah,
arcana name that they are and how it actually relates to their story.
right,
It was all kind of just like surface, like, do I like this person or not? And then when I was replaying it, I really just kind of only watched in specific parts that I knew that I liked. And I kind of wish I went back or when I replayed it that I actually read the dialogue through again instead
hmm,
of like being bored with it.
yeah,
Cause like, um, so, like, cause I don't know, like, I'm not, like, the most knowledge person when it comes to tarot, but I do know some, and some's pretty easy, like the, destiny card for the tarot like, for the actual tarot reader, like, and how like, just how those all relate to the things, and I guess it just was I don't know. I
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know anything about tarot, honestly. Um and I think and most of the time anytime anyone has approached me with anything tarot related, I found it repellent because I don't want my fucking cards read like ever. Um but
I've had it read, twice, and both I just, like, give nothing to the person to see what they're gonna dead read me as, because I think it's fun. It's just about the same as, like, astrology for me.
yeah.
Like, it's just fun to see what people come up with.
Yeah. But I kind of like and what's funny is I don't actually remember any of the uh I don't remember any of the tarot cards that represent any of the characters. Like just
So, like,
um
Aunt Maki, the blonde girl, she's the lover's card, which
okay.
a lot of people think that she's, like, super sexy and sexual, and she's, like, not really that way.
Yeah.
She's just, like, a nice, sweet girl who just, like, is very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. Um
Um
it's weird. I think it's weird playing a game like Persona 5 when cuz I what I the one thing I know about Persona or the one thing I come to understand about Persona, I should say, is that the story is almost always uh centered around kids, right? It's centered around kids and like them
I
going
think there's
through.
only one that's, like, about adults, and it's a Persona 3 shoot off.
Okay. But it's weird. It was weird playing. It's weird playing through um a game like Persona 5 in, what is now my late 30s, because like I guess like it's because basically you're playing a story about these kids who are in a position where by and large adults don't listen to them, and they're more or less either neglected or actively abused by adults depending on the situation that we're talking about. And it's it's a thought-provoking lens to look at a game through, like as someone who was like 20 years removed from the age of these kids in the game. And like it started making me think of how like I deal with, people who are in their teens, how I kind of it's kind of changed how I think about like the things that I hear teens say and things like that, because I feel like any adult at various points I have like kind of brushed off things that teenagers say as like, you know, uh um
They're stupid because they have tiny, not formed fully brains, and they're smelly, and teenagers suck.
uh but then like you go through the story and like, oh shit, this is some really heavy shit that all of these kids are dealing with, that I'm sure a lot of kids actually do deal with, that causes them to like have to grow up super fast, because like all these kids were dealing with like very real shit that made them all have to grow up really fast. um
Yeah. Like, so the main overarching theme with Persona 5, like I said earlier, is does a lot with because like the whole thing about Persona and what it's based off of and was different like psychological, I think his name's like Carl Jung, and he came up with this whole hierarchy and the true self and truth, that like ego and your own persona that you put out in the world. Self um but Persona 5 specifically is like society standards and that thought process. So you see like the protagonist get like by a powerful person get wrongly accused of doing a crime, and that's why he's even there, and you start off as him, and
yeah,
everyone thinks that he's now this like outsider and this rapscallion when all he was trying to do is save a lady from being assaulted.
right. And I mean that's another thing too, right? Because like one of the things that they kind of push on a lot is that like in like money and power, you know, will make you the correct person in the situation, which is like what that actually was. But even moving on from that though, like just the overall feeling of playing that game at any given moment is just, it's unlike anything else I've ever experienced. I played like a lot of JRPGs in my life. Um but I've never played one that's like that, and I've never played one like it since. Um and I've talked before a few years ago when I finished the game about how that ruined other video games for me for like a couple of weeks. Um, just because like I had gotten so attached to those characters, I gotten so like the story just made me. I was just so into that story, and then like when it finally ended, I didn't know what to do. Like my only desire was to like erase the memory of that game from my mind so I could experience it again. Um, but I haven't like I've heard people refer to different video games as like perfect, and I feel like Persona 5 is as close to a perfect video game as I've ever played. Um I can't think of anything that like just everything about that game is so well executed. It's just it blows my mind, honestly.
I think
Um
the main thing that I would change is the twins.
yeah.
Some of those, like, you had to do very specific, like, persona combinations to get what they wanted, And at that time, like, I absolutely had to use a guide to figure that out because there's no way that I was going to figure out that, like, th that specific combinations would alter what the preset moves were.
Right. Um,
I just, like, didn't grasp it at that time,
so would you
and
say that like
so, like, I had stuff
they would
I
give
think
you
it was
like
Justice?
yeah. Would
Or
you
what is their names?
those twins, those two girls?
Yeah.
Fuck. Let me look it up. But so
Alright.
my question to you is though, like when you say you would change that, like do you mean like they would give you more insight as to what they want you to do, or like
So
more guidance in that way?
I guess like that or I don't know, it just like it made it feel super tedious on the persona combinations than like fun figuring it out. I'd rather it had been more of a the progression be more collection based. So I am like rewarded for combining to all these different ones even if I don't use them
Yeah.
and filling up that list rather than it be due to uh specific evolutions or combinations.
Caroline and Justine.
That's it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Um yeah. And I was there was a lot of walking around for me like to trying to get like the right personas and like trying to get the right combinations and figure those out. And then I got to the point where I absolutely use a guide. I use a guide through most every aspect of that game. And that was kind of me letting go of the idea that to get the best experience out of a video game, I had to go in without any sort of guidance and just sort of just try to figure the game out. But then like I had so much anxiety. I've talked about this before. I had so much anxiety about what to do every day that it was just actively killing the enjoyment of that game for me. Which I didn't want it to do because I liked everything else about it. It's just I could not decide what I wanted to do every day, and it was just bothering me.
And
So
every decision you get that instant like FOMO of like, oh well, I could have done this and this would
yeah,
have already been there. And then it's just that constant thing of like, oh shit, I could have done this. That like also will definitely. So I did use I've done it before. I've used a guide with that game,
yeah,
but I didn't want to use it for necessarily everything. Like making decisions or figuring out like I did a lot of like overarching guides as well. Like, hey, the deadline dates are this, you should get this before, and then these are the stats you need to level up each confident. Like you have to
right,
have a 3 in guts for death or whatever. So I was like, okay, so I can plan ahead for that.
yeah.
I try not to like min max at least on the first playthrough too much. After that, for sure, was like, all right, what's like the best way I could do these things?
Well, I was determined to get the
Um,
platinum the first playthrough. That was my whole thing.
oh,
so
that's too. Yeah.
like I was kind of making sure I did everything. But again, that made it so much easier for me to enjoy the game because like I didn't feel like I should have been doing something else, and it made me feel like I wasn't. It didn't make me. It made sure I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything because maxing out the stats made sure I saw different events play out, in a certain way, so that like that I would have missed otherwise if I haven't leveled up a stat enough. So, um,
That like the gameplay is varied enough to where most of the guides won't tell you like which personas to have
yeah.
or anything like that. So you still have like that aspect that you're in control of where it's not spoon feeding you everything.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the time I was kind of just changing out persona like on a whim. Not on a whim, but like I would usually try to figure out like what I had that was strong against whomever I was fighting or whatever I was having a tough
And just
time
make sure you
against.
cover all the bases.
Yeah, and it's sometimes kind of hard too because like Joker's the only one who can carry more than one persona, and trying to figure out like what personas to have on him at a given time and figuring out who to have like in the like have like on the battlefield at a given time and like trying to
Yeah.
strategically figure out when to switch people out. It just like it's a lot, honestly, but it actually helped to it actually helped me to feel like I was doing battles the right way, more or less. Because I
Yeah.
think one of the things that I run into with JRPGs a lot, and the only two JRPGs that I didn't have a problem with this in are Final Fantasy X and Persona 5, which is like when you're playing a JRPG, like normally you have a group of at least 6 or 7 people. and usually maybe 3 or 4 of those people can be in combat, right? And otherwise you got to switch them out between battles, and it just feels weird because like what like I have like 4 people are here, like what are the other 3 people doing? Like why are they not fighting? So the ability to like switch people out like based on like a
That
situation is so useful. Um
yeah, it is.
and it keeps me from feeling like one of the things that I think could have really easily happened if they didn't allow me for me to do that is like go into battle with like the wrong group setup and like, well, shit, this isn't gonna work because they're not weak to anything that any of these people can do. And now I got to start this fight over, or hopefully, I win. But um, I don't know, man. I think that also the concept of the palace and the concept of like the palace ruler is like so fascinating to me. Um, it's just because like thinking about like what you were talking about with like the whole true self thing and like being able to like having that glimpse of that person's like actual personality, like in contrast to the way the rest of the world sees them. Like take the first palace for example, like Kamoshida. Everybody thought like Kamoshida was a stand-up guy, great coach. Everybody loves Kamoshida, and you find out he's some
But
fucking pervert.
and all the parents are like know about the physical abuse and
That
okay with that.
yeah,
That was real fucked up too, because I was like, because like they talk about it multiple times, like you can't go to the police, can't go to the parents know about how strict he is. They
yeah,
see the bruises on their kids, but as long as they're getting medals, it's
yeah,
fine. And like also, I do think there's something satisfying about like having that black and white thing in games like this of like who the bad guy is, because in
yeah,
real life sometimes it's genuinely hard to tell when someone
yeah,
is a fucking monster.
yeah, yeah. And you know, that was something that was like really kind of freeing about the game, I think, because like like straight away, like this person sucks. I don't have to think about whether or not this person sucks. I know that they suck. And like then you have this single-minded focus on exposing them for who they are. And like it's gratifying when it happens, especially when you think about like specifically like with Ryuji, right? Ryuji had this whole thing where like he had tried to tell people what was going on. He had tried to kind of shed light on this whole thing and like nobody believed him because he's known to be like a troublemaker. And like
Yeah,
I
he's an
personally
outsider, an outcast.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I personally identify with like the idea of some like there are a few things that are more infuriating, I think, than trying to tell people something that you know to be the truth and nobody's listening to you. And like so I identified with him in that way, and it was just so gratifying when he was like able to when like you were able to like give him, I think, some kind of redemption there. um
I also really like the aspect that not everybody with a palace is a monster in the way that you think that they are.
oh yeah,
Because
yeah,
like Futaba's mom having or Futaba having a palace and
yeah,
like the main thing with her mom, like Futaba is like a monster to herself.
yeah,
And those that bear the burden of caring about her due to her choices when it comes or not choices, due to like her health and her choices.
yeah,
There's like it's a combination there because not that like you can just overcome mental illness,
sure,
but also like it didn't seem like she was on any sort of medication plan
yeah,
or like really wanting to face and grow and learn new ways to deal with like her depression and
yeah,
anxiety and like mental health issues.
yeah,
And like yeah, like that I don't know. I really liked Futaba's like entire like palace thing. I think her as a character, like the meek thing when she would get like overwhelmed at like the I forgot the technology shop and street is and stuff. It could be cute, but also kind of annoying. I never was like super about her, but her story itself is still was like really compelling.
yeah. And I think that also like there aren't a lot of games that talk about grief in that way, or there aren't a lot of things that talk about guilt in that way, specifically the guilt that a child can feel about something happening to their parent, right? And like
Yeah.
because I think naturally, just based on how things played out for her, naturally she thinks that like her mother's death is her fault and she has to carry that around. and she's not, on one hand she's not able to talk to anybody about it, and on the other hand she still just has to deal with this guilt out like all of the time. And the way that that kind of, because the whole thing about the palace, right, is that like whoever, like if you have like emotions or desires that are like sufficiently distorted, then it creates a palace. And I think that like over time, right, like those emotions that she felt about her mother's death had like twisted up inside her and like created that palace. And there was just like no way for her to like get out of it. And I think that a lot of the time those kind of feelings of guilt and those kind of feelings of depression can feel like inescapable that way, right? And um having someone there to like intervene, or having someone there to like kind of help you to find some kind of light outside of that is like, it's a really powerful thing. And it was really moving the way that like she kind of like, she was like, I don't want to feel this way anymore, and I'm just going to, the only thing I know to not feel this way is to have the Phantom Thieves change my heart, and that's what I'm gonna do. And I remember feeling like, so like, because normally when you go into a palace you feel like, man, I'm gonna bring this asshole down, they're gonna pay for whatever they did. But like then it turns it on its head, where it's just like, well, no, like I just like, I'm going to go to this palace, I'm gonna help this girl, I'm gonna do whatever I can to get her out of like this place that she's in. And it means like so much more meaning to the final battle of that palace, because you're feeling like, I have, like, this is to help this person, this isn't to bring someone down, this is like to like help this person to move on from their regret, to like get over their guilt. So
And I don't know, and like it super killed my heart that like obviously Sojiro wanted to be that person or like help her be that, but he
yeah,
just didn't know how and he
great
didn't
anime dad.
know. Yeah. Uh he just didn't know how to break through or be supportive in a way that would be healthy for her. So he just did what he knew how to do. And yeah, I don't know. It just like, I also like that too. Of feeling like trying your best to help those around you. And with that seems to happen to a lot more of the NPCs,
Yeah,
or actually, not all of them. Just doing the best like for the people around you and having it just either just not be what's good for that person, even if the intentions are the best, or be negligible in the grand scheme of things.
yeah. But honestly, like that was a really, I think, and like this is me, like this is the only, again, this is the only Persona game that I played to completion. Um but based on what I know about the other games, I feel like a big part of those games is spending time with these people who have become your friends, and like finding like these common ground between them, and then growing closer as a result of it. Because like you look at the characters from just Persona 5, and like they're all like vastly different people. They're all like different people who come from different circumstance, who like found themselves together and then became like best friends. Um and it just really shows like how easy it is for people to come together and find the meaning in that companionship despite being so different. Because you look at someone like Ryuji and compare him to An, or compare him to Haru, or even even Yusuke. Like they're all like so different, and you would never imagine any of them spending so much time together. But they found a common goal, they found a common desire that made them like just great friends. And it's just, watching that like makes me like care about them so much. That's why like I was like very like, even like every time like I got in a battle and like one of them got knocked out, I would like get like a little upset, like more upset than I normally would playing a JRPG. Like I got a little bit upset because like these are my friends too. Um, but
And I also feel like all of the personas for them, of the ones that you get, like playable ones,
yeah,
really fit them. And I also really like that because they are like outsiders and outcasts, that like they made their personas like based off fictionary ones like Zoro,
yeah,
Carmen, uh Captain Kidd is like William the Kid
Yeah.
or William Kidd, and I didn't know about uh Makoto's until I was like, what even is this motorcycle?
Yeah.
Why does she just have a motorcycle? What is this?
Yeah.
And it's like based off Pope Joan, who like pretended to be a man and got to be Pope.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's pretty badass, and also something Makoto would totally do. This is
Yeah.
like really fitting. And I can't speak about the other Persona games because obviously I haven't played them, but I don't know how if because I know that some of their evolutions are based off like previous characters either in the Shin Megami Tensei proper series or existed in Persona before.
Mhm.
I think it's like all of their second ones. They tend to be based off gods or like demigods.
Yeah.
Um so I don't know necessarily much about those like the when they like evolved to the second phase, but in their first ones, like I kept looking up as I got new ones, like who is this persona? And it was really nice. Like I think it was like a really good touch. I don't know if they did it in other games with the playable characters, but I like that they did it in this one.
Yeah. Um, it's just it's just a great game. You know, I have like a soft spot for things that like explore friendship in a really deep way. That's just kind of like my jam, which is like why despite protests from everyone I know, like Final Fantasy 15 is my favorite Final Fantasy game. Um, because I like that. I
You like the
like
boys.
well, I just the idea of because I friendship is something that I take, especially as I've gotten older. Um, Curating like the people that I have around me in a way that is like I feel beneficial to like my growth and my emotional well being has become like increasingly important to me as you know as I get older, and I feel like Persona 5 echoes that sentiment in like a really huge way. Um,
Except for when Morgana's being a complete asshole to Ryuji. That I could have taken. Actually, that's something else that I could have taken out of the game. Morgana could have been nicer to my good boy.
I feel like that is like I I don't know. I feel like that was uh not as bad as him like being like a super like hashtag nice guy about on. I felt like that was super weird. Um
Yeah, and that one I feel like was more forgivable because it was a cat.
yeah.
So in my mind, it's like a Pepe Le Pew skunk thing. It's not that necessarily offensive because like on like can physically defend herself against a cat.
Yeah. Um
So like I mean maybe that is like poor of me as a person. But also, I just feel like it was more prevalent of like him putting down Ryuji like every single conversation. And the fact is, like, you get him first before on, so you also have all these conversations
yeah.
like before he starts being a perv about on to him just calling Ryuji an idiot from like almost sentence one to
Yeah.
like anytime Ryuji's like he's like he remembers that Ryuji exists, he has to insult him.
um I'll tell you actually, you know what? I There's something I would take out of this game. Um there
Ryuji's a good friend.
yeah.
Don't be mean to him.
Actually, Ryuji is actually a good model for men like boys and men being like emotionally vulnerable around each other. Um I think that he's really good at expressing himself, like expressing what he's feeling to Joker pretty frequently. Um he's a very sentimental person in those one-on-one conversations, and I think that's a good model for showing people that it's okay for guys to like say nice things to each other. Um,
But he's also like a loud scamp where he's
yeah,
just like he just yells like and a lot of your dialogue to him is like Ryuji, quiet, like quieter, like you don't need to yell this. No, you can but a lot of the conversation is like when he starts yelling and doing stuff, he's like, "Hey, we're at a restaurant." Or he's like, "Hey, why don't we go over here where you can yell like so we don't get overheard and you can be as loud as you want." And I
there's a
also think that like yeah, there's some asshole choices you can pick in that conversation, but a lot of them are pretty like understanding the fact that Ryuji is just not good at controlling his volume.
yeah.
He has skills. That's not one of them.
Um, Also, there's a point at which you guys get to go to a fancy restaurant, and Ryuji eats a bunch of meat dishes, and he says it's like a meaty explosion in my mouth, and I'm like, Ryuji, chill out. One thing I would definitely would take out
He's
of the
just
game
very excited.
is there are some inappropriate stuff as far as like relationships between like adults and teenagers. I think I would remove from that game.
Yeah, the teacher thing, I
Um, like the teacher,
I
like
would
being
have
able to like romance the teacher or the doctor. Like I just think those are both like you should probably remove those. Um,
I think, like, specifically the teacher, you could easily restructure that story just to take the romance out and have him have, like, an understanding moment that sometimes, like, adults
yeah,
are just, like, also put into shitty situations that are out
yeah.
of their control just like he is. Um, like, the Death Doctor, I kinda like that she's a little bit flirty. I feel like she could they coulda just I mean, it would just be, like, really hard to have any sort of okay with flirtation between a teenager and an adult. But I guess if, like, they made it more like, apparent that she's just, like, indulging him and teasing him rather than it being,
I feel like
like
that only works if she's never a romance option,
yeah, that's yeah, no, take
right?
out the romance option. I mean, don't get me wrong. Personally, I wanna romance the hot doctor. Don't get me wrong. She like, style, amazing. Um, but I'm not playing an adult in this
Yeah.
game.
Well, that's the thing.
So
That's my big problem with it is I feel like it kind of legit it tries to legitimize that kind of relationship. And I think that's a problem because like that is happening in real life already, and it's not okay. Um,
yeah,
so
like
I think that I would definitely remove that from the game. But
like have the option for after game stuff, them treating him like a like little brother and being like, "Hey, you need some new clothes? Let's go clothes shopping. Let's
yeah,
you need like are your emotional and needs do you want to help decorating your room? Do you need some money for school?"
yeah,
Like,
yeah, something like
have
that,
it
right?
like or have it be like yeah, because even, like, because there are also ways to, like, open up to kids about, like, your struggles as an adult without putting, like, pressure on them and making
Yeah,
sure, like, they know it's not their responsibility to help you. It
yeah.
is yours as an adult. And that obviously does not happen in the games, but, like, even with that standing, I still love the game, and obviously it's not a detractor enough to where
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh
"Oh."
no, I would 1000%. Like here's my thing is that I envy people who could do more than one playthrough of the game because I would love to be that person, but there's something about it that like keeps me from doing it. Like I just feel like that first time hits so perfectly for me that I can't bring myself to touch it again. Um
It's also very long.
it's a very long game. Like it's a very long game, especially if you do everything. It's like over 100 hours. It's a long game, but like it's a game that I don't know. I feel like I could recommend to most anybody. I have seen people talk about how they felt like the dungeons were a little bit too like there's too much of a grind and there's a lot of repetition, but I feel like that's just JRPGs in general. So that's kind of something that
I mean, that's
comes with it.
RPGs in general, even Western ones.
Yeah, so I feel like that's not I there are ways to kind of break that up so it doesn't feel tedious, but like I mean, it just I feel like the loop in that game is such that it's not offensive to me. So I've never had a problem with it. I just like watching the
So
numbers go up.
if you're going to the mementos like pretty like steadily and like a good like timing wise in between the two, then you don't really need to grind in the castles too terribly much.
Yeah.
And you can do more like stealth based stuff. And you can always make it harder on yourself to try and do like not kill them if you don't have to.
Yeah.
And other things like that. But if you're like, yeah, but as I don't know. It's just not that big of a deal to me because as you said, it's just like, I know what I'm playing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's
Also,
too much shooting in this zombie game.
uh, that's what's funny. Like that reminds me of I was playing Dead Island 2 and Katie looks over. She's like, "All I ever see you doing in this game is killing zombies." I'm like, "Well,
Oh.
that's the game." So, uh,
Hey, what was that Knockout City. There's too much dodgeball in this Knockout
Yeah.
City.
There. So also, I would recommend playing Royal not only because like it's every from what I understand it's everything of the base game plus extra shit.
Oh, so like it's completely but it completely changes so many things that are so annoying. So now like in Royal that you whenever the ammo
Yeah.
will replenish after every battle instead
Yeah.
of having to be every time you go into it. Holy shit, is that a
Because
game
like
changer?
when I played the base game, I was so afraid to use my gun at any given point because I was like, well, I don't want to run out of bullets.
Because it's
Uh,
a thing that happened
yeah,
a lot.
yeah. So, I also think that the game does a good job of telling you when it's appropriate to use your gun. Because I think it would be really easy to think that you should just use it all the time. Because like, why would I use my knife when I've got this gun in my hand? Um, but it does a really good job of telling you like how and when to use the guns. Um,
Also, them being different types of damage
yeah,
also really helps too.
yeah,
So, like, it gives you a reason to like cycle through your attacks instead of just using your most powerful attack or doing a one light, one medium, one powerful. Like, because there's such variance in it, it really makes it seem less stale and less repetitive than it is. At least for me, just because I can go to each battle and play completely different each time.
Also, Royal has some really cool tag team attacks for the different characters, and they rule.
Also, the Faith character Katsumi.
Oh yeah, I love her. She's great.
Yeah, she's great. Her character design is like really cool. I like having athletic chick.
Yeah.
She and yeah, like I think she fits really well into the story. I kind of wish I had a little bit more of her, but I also feel the same way about Akatsuki Goro.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I don't know, just because they're one of the ones you use the least or you get the least amount of time with, I think I'm just gonna I'd feel that way if it was any character.
I have so much I want to say about Goro Akechi, but like I don't want for anybody who hasn't played the game, I don't want to spoil it. But like,
If they never played the game, they're not listening now.
yeah, that's true. Um, what a redemption arc. That's all I gotta say. Um, that game. Oh
But
man, and that. Oh, I remember. Cause when I finished that game, it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. Like I had stayed up like to play through like the last like chapter of that game. Did the last boss battle, finished the story, and like the end credits and the end credits song, I was in tears. Just an emotionally charged video game, just all the way through. I love that game. I love
I
Persona
say
Five.
you get much more Ketchki and Royal 2 compared to not Royal.
Yeah, especially because of that, because there's that extra that third semester section that Royal has.
You can
But
interact with them better because that
com-
'cause I feel like he was there. I don't really feel like you could interact with him in the city like you can in Royal. That or it's not as often or something. Maybe I was just playing it wrong, but from what I can remember, because I played all the way through the first one and then I replayed it as Royal. But yeah,
yeah, yeah, but yeah, I think that's the one. I think you and I have played. I think you and I have both played like similar games as each other. Like I feel like I've played some of the games
yeah,
that you've played, and likewise for you. But like I think this is the one game that both of us have played to completion, and we also have like we also have like the same like mindset and opinion about. I
yeah.
think.
We both love the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely like sometimes listening to that music is just a comfort.
Yeah.
But every now and then I'll look at like gameplay videos of it too, because it's just I don't know, just the the entire game is just relaxing and comforting in a super weird way. I think it's just some of the repetition with
Yeah.
it as well with your day-to-day basis stuff
Yeah.
and how much that I don't know, it just feels good. I can't explain why exactly it feels good. It just does.
My favorite moment, Shanae. This is my favorite moment of the whole game. Do you remember when they got the Phantom Thieves. Like the Phantom Thieves like got everybody in Tokyo to like believe in them, and they were all cheering for them. And then you see the meter
Yeah.
like go off the fucking
Going up.
charts. That's
Yes.
such a great scene. I love that scene so much.
Well, it goes back to the theme of the like nobody believing in you.
Yeah.
This one is the opposite. Everybody is believing in you, and
Yeah.
it feels great. It's
Yeah.
yeah. 10 out of
Fantastic
10
game.
would
Love that fucking
recommend.
game. I might actually play it again now that we're talking about it. I might not soon because I have so much shit going on. But like
You have till June.
yeah,
You have a month.
yeah, and then there's gonna be all Final Fantasy 16 in this house. Um,
Uh, Kaylee thinks up playing a phone game. Or pulls up Marvel Snap. You're like, what are you doing?
she would
That's
never.
all Final Fantasy.
She would never do that. I don't. I don't think I've ever actually seen her play a phone game. In the entire time that we've been together, I've never seen it. So
Oh.
probably not gonna happen. Final Fantasy 16 is not going to be enough to get me to stop playing Marvel Snap, though. Nothing will ever be enough.
Really? Okay, we definitely need to play against each other. I'll
Yeah.
message you tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, was there anything else you wanted to say before we ended the show today?
Yeah. Sega makes awesome games, or Sega publishes awesome games about guys being friends to each other and being good to the people around them. You should be playing Persona 5. Play every Yakuza game. You
I
understand?
thought Persona 5 is Atlas. Is it
So,
also Sega?
Atlas is owned by Sega, who publishes.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Okay. Well, now I know.
Yeah.
All right. Um. Yeah, Morgana, stop being so mean to my good boy. That's all I got.
Yeah. Maybe he'll be nicer on
Uh,
your next playthrough. We'll see.
he won't, but I can hope. Well, we are on most podcast apps. We're also on the YouTube if you want to see our faces, and our Discord will be linked. And bye, guys.
Later.